I'm so glad you're here today because I want to share with you in today's video lesson all about transformation. True transformation. The kind that moves us. The kind that causes us to make a shift in our behavior, in our thinking. And as a result, causes us to be in alignment with our values so that our life works better and we bring out our best self in all that we do. Also, what we want to take a look at is what are some of the common pitfalls, one in particular that can truly be an obstacle and cause us to get stuck and not transform. So have you noticed? I don't know how much you've been on the path, so to speak, or what your background is. However, have you noticed that you can get motivated, you can get a lot of content, you can get a lot of information, and no matter how awesome it is, it's just information unless what? You integrate it. You make it a part of you so that it becomes a part of you and somehow, some way, you change. Transformation is an inside game. Transformation is never going to happen from the intellectual frontal lobes, from the amount of content we accumulate, from all the motivation that might serve us temporarily. It's great. I love it too. However, to effect lasting change, to truly transform our lives, it is, as I've found, an inside game. So how might you recognize that? There are different terms. Psychologically, in psychology, we might call it making a shift, or a defining moment, or a little light bulb going off in your head. When you all of a sudden say, I've known this intellectually forever, but now I get it. And it's even hard to put into words because there's just something about it that just moves us. Or perhaps you've had an experience. All too often it's when people hit rock bottom. Have you ever had that happen? And it's like the worst of the worst, and can it get any worse? That often could be a kick in the butt that causes us to have a defining moment where, if we're courageous, we say, that's it, I'm done, I got to get out of this mess, whatever it takes. Or perhaps you have an experience that some might say was a spiritual or religious-like experience that causes us to see the world very differently, that causes us to look at people and our surroundings with a new perspective, if you will. Those of you who know and follow my work, my name is Ken Coscia. I've been doing this work for a long time, since 1971 with the Silva Method. And I can still remember sitting in that class, what now we call the Silva Method Immersion of Life and Intuition System. Back then we called it, you may remember, the basic lecture series. My mother was praying for me. She turned white as a ghost when I told her about it, took out her rosary beads. I didn't exactly, in other words, get support from family and friends, people close to me. And I went into that class very skeptical, but felt guided, felt that it was something for me, but I didn't really know what it was. And once I started moving through the class and had the experiences and did the dynamic meditations, something shifted. And even to this day, it's hard to put into words, and that all of a sudden I felt different. And I walked out of that classroom, went home into Brooklyn, New York, and I'm looking around at the trees, and everything looked different. It looked richer, it looked greener, it looked better. I thought, what's going on here? Am I on drugs or what? And the answer is no, it wasn't. It was like I had new eyes. And I began to notice shifts within me, my perspective, and how I looked at myself, my place in the universe, how I looked at other people in my life. And I haven't looked back since. So what are some of the common denominators when you're truly making a shift, when you've integrated something? You might have that aha moment. Or it just feels right. It feels good. It feels like it's for you, even though you don't know completely yet what it is and what that means. Or you'll notice that you feel like you're out of your comfort zone. Well, frankly, most of us don't realize it at the time, but we feel uncomfortable. And that's because we're out of our comfort zone. Can you relate? If truly we are shifting, if truly we are moving away from being defined by the past, being stuck in the same old, unproductive obstacles, patterns of behavior that get us nowhere and keep us stuck in fruitless experiences, fruitless life. If we've truly moved away from that and we're being defined, as some say, by a vision of the future, then we will feel different. It will feel right. We will look differently. And again, it's hard to describe. And yet, we're uncomfortable. And yet, maybe we feel angst in our stomach, or we feel anxious. I'm not happy to hear that when people tell me, my students, it's not fun. But you know, it goes with the territory. If we're truly going to make a shift and transform our lives, sometimes it's a struggle, and we need to embrace that struggle, and sometimes it's hard. I don't agree when I see on the internet some of the marketing, I think, sensationalizing transformation in 3 days or less, transformation in 7 days, almost implying that it's instant. And come on, you know better. Of course you do. It takes time. It takes patience. In fact, we know, whether we study positive psychology or neuroscience, in order to establish new patterns of behavior, in order to literally rewire the brain, that takes time. It's not instant. Yes, we can make the shift. And yet, in order to make it lasting, to sustain it, we need some repetition, we need some reinforcement, we need some support. And that's the hard part. That's not always easy, because you may find yourself surrounded by people who don't think like you, may not support your spiritual growth, may not encourage you even. And that's our challenge. So what I'd like to address with you is this feeling of discomfort is actually a good sign, because you're out of your comfort zone. And it's biological. It goes with the territory. I'm not making this up. The number one priority for the brain is survival. Number two is security, to feel safe. And whenever we do something new, no matter how promising it is, no matter how potentially positive it is, no matter the value that it could be in our lives, if it's brand new and we know little to nothing about it, it will rock the boat. It will cause us to feel temporarily uncomfortable, because we're out of our comfort zone and we're triggering feelings of what? Uncertainty. We don't know what to expect. We don't know yet completely how the heck we're going to get there, even though it's wow. Can you relate? Have you been there? And that's what I want to encourage you to embrace, my friends. To embrace that feeling, and not just push through it, but it takes self-awareness. It takes thinking about it and recognizing that shift. I'll give you a very concrete example. Just recently, I finished a Silva Method immersion of life and intuition system. And we do a lot of dynamic meditations. We spend 4 days building this out, so I want to cut to the chase with you. And part of the practice is we do a lot of games, play a lot of games with intuition, where you actually leave, people actually leave with unquestionable evidence of how intuitive they are, and that it can be trained, it can be developed. It's a skill set. It takes training, yes. It takes time. And we spend 4 days doing that. And then we put it to the test and people evaluate it. And it's very promising. Can you imagine if you could make better, wiser decisions? Can you imagine what it would be like in your life if you could distinguish between when you're just wishfully thinking and when you actually are having a true bona fide insight? Everybody says, trust your gut, trust your intuition. We all know how important it is. We hear more and more about it in business, in our personal lives, in relationships, all around. And yet, what's missing too often is the training, or the piece of, well, how do I distinguish between me just feeling I'm wishful thinking, or I'm in fear and being guided that way, or I'm having a bona fide intuitive experience, which is usually fleeting. It's very quick. If you have to think about it, it's not intuition, it's logic, it's reasoning. It's very quick. It's so quick that it leaves. And it takes training, it takes practice to recognize it and then to learn from it. And that's what happens. So in this experience, it never gets old for me. I love it. Even people who come in with a background rich in working with intuition, to the newbies, you see a range of experience. And in this last class I had, it was very diverse. And I'm sorry when it happens, but for people who are very brand new or really out of practice, when they have this experience, they're like, whoa, almost, well, I don't want to say freaked out, but close to it. And or feeling exhausted, like it took so much energy. So let's recognize that and what's going on. First, again, depending on your background, the newer it is to you, and especially if you were like I was, skeptical, I don't know if I could do this, I don't know if I want to do it, oh my God, is he kidding me? You know, the intuitive exercise. When you actually do it and in the process, the harder you try, the more you think about it. We know, fact. It's not the doing of things that wears us out. It's the excessive thinking about it. It happens to people too often every day. They have this big to-do list. And they wake up in the morning and think, oh my God, how am I going to get this done? I have so much. And they spend maybe 5 minutes or less worrying about, will I ever get it done? And they're exhausted. They need a nap. And they haven't done anything. Can you relate? Have you been there? I know I have. So we got to learn from that. Well, the same thing is in any endeavor, whether you're working with intuition, building a new business, in a new relationship, working on taking some weight off, improving your fitness and health, whatever it is. When you're learning new strategies, new techniques, and you're applying them, at first, it's important that we embrace the temporary feeling of discomfort because it creates a high level of uncertainty. How much depends on the person. And the more we think about it, the more we worry, the more exhausted we are. And this is what I've observed and would like to offer you this insight that I often, in our games of intuition, tell people the quicker you work, the better you'll do, the more accurate you'll be. You might leave some things out because if you're new at it, but you'll have a lot more energy. Sure, you need a rest, no doubt, but you won't feel, and if you feel, it's because you're trying too hard, you're too into your head. I mean, to be respectful with you, it's just that simple. So learn from it. It's okay. You know, we all make that mistake from time to time. If we learn from it, then we know what to avoid. So you can tell you're in an intuitive flow when it's exactly that, a flow. It feels like you're just making a lucky guess. It's just a quick thought, a feeling of inspiration, a quick moment. That's what you want to look for and learn to recognize. And with practice, you can distinguish it between wishful thinking, fear, and or intuition that will guide you. So if you're a Silva Method practitioner and you've been through the class, I salute you. I really, really want to honor you because it's an incredible course. There's so many applications. It's, I think, the best thing since ice cream that I've ever seen. However, it takes work and it takes time. And sometimes it just feels like a struggle because if it's so new in our lives, it's going to take time making those adjustments and getting acclimated to these new behaviors, to these new routines, to this new pattern, if you will, until it becomes just the way we are. So I urge you, hang in there, practice, work with it, take small baby steps to work with it, and recognize that feeling. And again, just to wrap this up, if you're on a path and you're making some changes and you're making some shifts and it feels uncomfortable, that's usually a very, very promising sign. It means you're out of your comfort zone and you're not stuck in same old patterns that are not serving you anymore. And you're about to make a giant leap, a shift, and that's what transformation is all about. Thanks so much for watching. Again, my name is Ken Coscia. I'm the International Training Director for the Silva Method. I'm their lead instructor. It's been my joy, my pleasure to do this work. For now, going into my 49th year, hard to believe. It's great. And it's people like you who inspire me and encourage me. And if you've yet to go through the Silva training, I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful program, and maybe one day I'll get to meet you. If you're finding this video helpful, please share it with others. Let others know. It's a way for me to get the word out. It's a way for me to get to know different people. And just maybe it might be just what they need to hear, that little bit of encouragement. Thanks again for watching. Until the next time.